horrible. We used to have to get up at 5 in the morning and march and sing cadence, and they're trying to make us become one, like able to protect each other or back us up. But at the time, I didn't see that. It was horrible. Well, I grew up in Freehold. Me and my father and grandfather and brother. We used to play a lot, cowboys and Indians, and I was in the drill team, involved in a lot of stuff in Freehold. I don't know, when I was in elementary school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Very different than it is today. We had some prejudice, some friends, good people. There was places down in the front of the Hall of Records when I was growing up. I was little, I don't know, 6, 7, and I remember it had a fountain, coloreds only, and we had the same thing in the movies. Daddy used to talk about upstairs was the coloreds, but as Negroes or Afro-Americans, and downstairs was the whites. The movie that I remember going to was the Mayfair in Asbury and the Lyric down here in Asbury Park. Madison Avenue was one, and down on Cookman was the Mayfair. And the Savoy, it was 3 movies. We had to go to those 3. And it stopped shortly after, I don't know what year it was, because I was little. And Daddy he used to take us down there and show us. I don't remember ever going in that movie theater. Daddy used to go there. We couldn't go. I don't remember as a kid ever going there. After high school, I was a clerk typist for Asbury Park, City of Asbury Park. I started out in the building department, but then there became an opening in local welfare, city welfare for single men and women. So I applied for it and I got it. It was more money. I was trying to gain more money and knowledge of the city. But we were working like in a dungeon. It was called Lincoln Village in the basement. It was horrible. We used to have floods. People would come in there like homeless people. It was for single men and women. And I always had to call the police because they became violent if they weren't qualified to get the service.
After the riots and even now, trust between the police and the community is a very sensitive issue and difficult to obtain. Valerie was very good at it. Very personable, very charming, but most of all, she was trustworthy and honest to the people, and they were the same to her.
So a lot of the officers used to come and they all knew me by name and would say, "You got to get out of here and we would like you to come apply to become an officer."
Asbury Park is a very diverse community, and the police department was cutting edge in that way for quite a long time. Not always, as we know the history, but for quite a long time the Asbury Park Police Department's been very diverse.
Back then we only had 3 female police officers. In fact, when Valerie came on, we only had 2, and now we have 10. So we have a very diverse police department, not only in gender, but also in race and ethnicity, now compared to back in the day.
Said, "We don't have any females, why don't you come and try?" And one brought me an application, and 2 of them came because they knew I wasn't going to do it, so they had their wives take the test with me. One was a teacher. I knew she could pass the test. She failed it. And the other lady that took the test didn't want the job because she had a small son. I think they just did that to push me to do it. And I passed and eventually was hired.
And she was able to do a lot of things that folks couldn't do in our department, which was relate to the community, talk to the community, and she had the trust of the community. And that comes from living here and from her good and solid reputation here.
Boxing and getting knocked out. I had a concussion. It loosened my front tooth, but it was a learning process. They would get the biggest man to beat the crap out of you to make sure they didn't say it, but we now know it's so to see if you can handle yourself. In the middle of a break for class, you would run back to go to the bathroom to the barracks. The troopers would tear your room up. You would have to fix your room back together, go to the bathroom. It had to be spotless and get back to class before class started. scary. Because usually it's not a 2-man or 2-women operation. Once you graduate, you're on your own. I mean, they train you a little bit on the day-to-day activities in the police department, but you're by yourself. So all the training that you learned in the police academy had to kick in, and if you needed help, you were a radio away. Use your radio.
I got to know her real well when I was moved into the Detective Bureau, where Valerie Williams was the senior investigator at the time, handling most of the juvenile and sex crimes that occurred in the city of Asbury Park. And in fact, I had my desk right behind her, and it was a real learning experience because she was very good at what she did, and she was able to do a lot of things that folks couldn't do.
When I first was hired, after I passed the civil service test, you had to send a letter to the city of Asbury Park that you were interested. You could send it to wherever you want. They had a list on it. I would send it to Asbury that I was interested in the position as a policewoman. Edward Moses was the chief of police at the time, and Tilton was the deputy chief. But I met with Moses, and Moses asked me why did I want to be an officer. So I explained it to him, and he laughed. He said that he felt a woman's place is in the kitchen, that it didn't belong in law enforcement, and he didn't feel that was the ideal job for me. He had to hire me. I was on the list, and I was where my position was. He had to take me because I had no criminal background. I've never been in any kind of trouble. I was an A1 citizen, so he had to take me. So that was his choice to send me to Seagirt State Police Academy to be a little harder, feeling that they were going to knock me out where I wouldn't become a police officer, whereas he had sent other officers to the Monmouth County Police Academy in Freehold. So I went there as opposed. So I figured he did it because it was strong and sturdy, and you had to live there 16 weeks, Monday through Friday, and maybe he felt that I would fail.
Were there any times you felt that your life was in danger?
Yes, towards the end of my career, the last year of my career, we did a raid on a house on Summerfield Avenue, and when some of my co-workers hit the door with the ram to break the door in, someone inside started shooting, and gunfire and flash was all over the place. In fact, 2 officers, detectives that I was with was shot, but they went to the hospital thanks to me because I drove them there, because the first aid couldn't go in because of the gunfire. So I got them to the first hospital, Jersey Shore, and they received care.
The event that I remember the most is when she decided to retire. It left a huge void in our Detective Bureau. I know because I took over almost all of the sex crimes or sex-related crimes that occurred within the city from Valerie. And little did I know they're very intense and very in-depth investigations and require a lot of sensitivity. And something that came very natural to Valerie, I had to work hard at. So that was an event that I remember. It was when she was leaving. It left a huge void in our police department. And I don't think we've ever really filled it to the degree that she did when she was here.
When you have 25 years of service in civil service, you could retire, no matter what age you are, but 25 years. So I went to 27 because I've had enough. Seemed like every time there was a serious crime, they were calling me back as soon as I get off from work. I had to come back home to handle it, and I was tired of it, so I needed a change. It was rewarding, and the pension is great. Living life to the fullest and having fun.